Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of the Revenues Subcommittee of Ways and Means. It is Thursday, March 13th. We have 3 bills that we are going to discuss. We will start with House Bill 258. So this bill alters the composition, powers, and duties of the West North Avenue Development Authority, establishes that the authority is a public body politic and corporate and an instrumentality of the state, makes the authority permanent. The amendments require the authority to be self-sufficient beginning in fiscal year 2028 and submit a report on its progress towards being so. It limits the authority's abilities to exercise eminent domain and extends the termination date of the authority by 3 years rather than making the authority permanent. So any questions on the amendments? You should have the reprint that George provided. Delegate Buckle.
Thank you. I just had a question, Delegate Feldmark, and it may or may not be related to the amendments. The funding for this, I'm a big fan and supporter of this initiative or authority. The funding for it is not mandated in the bill or in current law. That's great. It's just the governor and other sources can put money in up to certain amounts, and then it's done through the budgetary process every year, correct?
Right. If you're looking at the reprint on page 3 of 14, it's the governor may include.
Okay. And what's the amount that the governor may include up to? Because I don't have that right in front of me. Is it just an open-ended number?
I don't believe it is limited. George, can you?
That's correct. It's not. There's not a limited amount provided.
Thank you. That satisfies. I have no problems with the amendments or the bill. Thank you.
Okay, and Delegate Hartman.
Thank you. Did you say this gave eminent domain or does not?
No, it restricts it.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Roberts, did you have a question?
Madam Chair, if I may clarify.
Oh, yes.
So
Go ahead, George.
if you do see on page 9, there are powers to acquire property within the city directly or indirectly for specific purposes. And that does include in line 19 eminent domain. The amendments limit that power so that it could not be used on owner-occupied residential properties.
But it could be
a
used
similar amendment was adopted by the Senate.
But they've always had that. Is that correct, George? I mean, this isn't something new that you've limited it, but whatever power existed for them has been there the whole length of the authority.
It's similar to other local development authorities' powers.
Okay. Delegate Vogel, just to catch you up, we're just discussing the amendment to House Bill 258. Any further discussion or any additional questions? All right, is there a motion on the amendments?
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. If there's any other discussion, please let me know. Otherwise, we will go to a vote. I don't see any hands. Did you have a question, Delegate Vogel? No. Okay. All right. Then all those in favor of the amendments, please raise your hand. Okay. And any opposed? No. Wonderful. Okay. So the amendments passed, and now on the bill as amended. Is there a motion?
Move favorable as amended.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or questions on the bill as amended? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Wonderful. Looks like that was unanimous. Any opposed? No. Great. Delegate Roberts, did you have a question or were you raising your hand to vote? Okay, thank you. All right, then House Bill 258, we will recommend to the full committee favorable with amendments, and moving on to House Bill 601. And House Bill 601 modifies the Small Business Development Financing Authority's long-term guarantee program. We do have amendments. The amendments strike the provisions of the bill specifying that the guarantees under the authority may be supported by the full faith and credit of the state. Any questions or discussion on the amendments? Delegate Roberts. Oh, okay, your hand is still up from before. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know it was up. I'm sorry.
There you
I
go.
didn't realize
Okay.
it was up.
No
Okay.
worries.
Was that my notes, Delegate Feldmark, reflected that there was something in the fiscal note about there being a potential constitutional question because
So
of that, and is that what's been resolved by the amendment?
yes, so the original bill had that it would be supported by the full faith and credit of the state. George, I will let you speak to that. That's what the amendment removes, but George, you can
Right.
give a little more
Correct.
explanation.
So as noted in the fiscal note under Article 3, Section 34 of the Constitution, no debt can be contracted by the General Assembly unless the debt is authorized by law, providing for the collection of an annual tax or taxes sufficient to pay interest on that debt. And so, yeah, by striking the references to full faith and credit in the bill, that provision is no longer implicated.
That's what I thought.
Would
Thank you.
still provide the additional methods that could be used under the bill as methods to provide the guarantee under the program.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? Is there a motion on the amendments?
Move favorable.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Wonderful. And on the bill as amended, is there a motion?
Move favorable with amendment.
Second.
Second.
Wonderful. Any discussion? Questions on the bill as amended? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Wonderful. Any opposed? No? Okay. House Bill 601 also moving forward to the full committee with a recommendation of favorable with amendment. And finally, House Bill 942. This is the bill regarding non-contiguous areas for tax increment financing. We do have an amendment. As you'll recall, in the hearing on this bill, there was discussion about this being a tool for development of affordable housing, and that was the focus of this. The bill did not specify that, but in the hearing we discussed that the sponsor was open to amending it to specify that intent, and that is what this amendment does. By providing that the non-contiguous development district, that those parcels would be limited to redevelopment for affordable housing, and that would be for households whose income does not exceed 80% of the area median income. Any questions or discussion on? Oh, and I should say, that's not the only thing the amendment does. The amendment also removes the provisions regarding the CDA within the Department of Housing and Community Development. That whole section is removed from the bill. And it also says that this bill does not apply to Baltimore City, that these provisions do not apply within Baltimore City. Baltimore City already has authority for non-contiguous development districts, and so we didn't want to, as we're adding a limitation here, we didn't want to limit Baltimore City's existing authority. Delegate Palakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the work on the bill and, supportive of the direction of the amendments. I did just want to ask about the 80% of area median income for the deed restriction on the households. Do you or does George happen to know, does that align with any of our other statutes in terms of affordable housing goals? Like, does that maybe fall within the range of also workforce housing? I'm just curious about the why 80% specifically.
So that came from conversation with DHCD. I do not know the specific citation of where that falls. I mean, I know in Howard County, it's also the limit for our moderate income housing units in the for purchase program. So I think that's, you know, that's another example.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
George,
thank you
I
for
don't-
that. If it came from DHCD, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Could you just explain in what the bill does in, like in an actual hypothetical situation?
So, so the bill, and George, please feel free to jump in if I misspeak, but the bill allows for a jurisdiction to in a blighted area, which the bill defines as an area in which a majority of the buildings have declined in productivity by reason of obsolescence, depreciation, or other causes, right? So if there's a blighted area and there are parcels or properties within that blighted area that are not contiguous, they can be selected as a development district for tax increment financing, even though they're not contiguous. However, what the amendment says is if a jurisdiction is establishing a non-contiguous TIF district like this, then it would be specifically for redevelopment of those properties to provide affordable housing.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Any on the amendments? Is there a motion on the amendments?
Move
the
it.
amendment.
Or second.
Wow, lots of motions. And did I hear a second also?
Second.
Okay, great. Any further questions or discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? No, wonderful. Okay, the amendments have passed. Is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move
Move the
favorable
bill.
as amended.
I just wanted to ask very quickly if I
Sure.
could, Delegate Fillmore. It's enabling only, correct? I mean, it's not
Oh, correct.
requiring places to do
Yes.
this. It's allowing them if they want to do these affordable housing
Right.
developments in a different way by tying two places together that aren't geographically contiguous. That's really all it does.
Yes,
Okay.
that is
Thank you.
correct. And I think there were several people speaking at once. I believe there was a second.
Second.
Great. Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor of the bill as amended? Okay, any opposed? Wonderful, thank you so much. That will go to the full committee again with a recommendation of favorable as amended.
Did we
Thank
just
you all.
conclude the revenue subcommittee without raising anyone's taxes? I'm very happy. It's a very happy day here in Annapolis.
Hey, we're focused on economic development.
That's what I like to hear.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Stop.